Who is a soldier's most loyal battle companion? His weapon, his comrade, or his silent hero with four legs who stands by his side without ever speaking? What you see in this photograph is just the beginning of a journey where a man sets out to find his own dog after the war's end. But what if that dog is also trying to return to him at the same time? If you have similar stories, please send them to the email address in the description.
August 1945, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the southern shores of the Philippines. While news of the war's end was broadcasting on radios, Captain Michael Robert Thompson of the United States Army's 101st Airborne Division was sitting in front of his tent, running his hands through his hair. This 31-year-old man had a tall frame with broad shoulders. His brown hair had been bleached by the sun, and his green eyes sparkled wearily. He bore a small scar on his left cheek from the Battle of Guadalcanal. His thick eyebrows always seemed furrowed, giving him a perpetually thoughtful expression. I was sitting in my tent that day, drinking cold coffee from the metal cup I held in my hands, my mind constantly fixated on him. Rex, my war companion, my protector, my friend. Rex, a German Shepherd mix, had been with me on every front since the beginning of the war. With his bright brown eyes, pointed ears, and strong jaw, he was a true war dog. But to me, he was just Rex. Just my Rex. Everything changed during our final operation on Luzon Island in the last days of June. The weather was very overcast that day. Humidity exceeded 90%. The jungle was filled with leaves in every shade of green. Sunlight filtering through bamboo trees created dancing shadows on the ground. The sounds of tropical birds masked the distant artillery fire. We were advancing to breach the enemy line. Rex was running beside me, as always. He raised his nose to the air, sniffing for danger. Suddenly he stopped, pricked up his ears. I stopped too. That's when it happened, that merciless sound from above ... Fire opened from the Japanese hidden machine gun nest. As bullets flew around us, Rex jumped on top of me. He protected me. But a shrapnel fragment wounded his left leg. I can never forget that moment. Rex's painful whimper, blood spreading on the ground, my helplessness. I immediately bandaged his wound with gauze. But he was so severely injured that he couldn't walk normally. When I looked into his eyes, I saw not pain in those beautiful brown eyes, but his love for me. As if he was saying, "Don't worry, Michael. I'm fine." Our battalion commander, Colonel William James Harrison, was a disciplined soldier in his 40s with completely gray hair, blue eyes, and a perpetually serious expression. He had a tall and thin build. His steps were firm and determined when he walked. When Colonel Harrison approached me, I could tell from his expression that he was bringing bad news. "Thompson," he said in a cold voice, "your dog needs to be taken to the hospital, but you will continue with the mission." The colonel's words pierced my heart like an arrow. Looking at Rex, he had those understanding eyes, as if he was saying, "Go, Michael, do your duty. I'll wait for you." But I knew that if I left him there, I might never see him again. Veterinary Lieutenant Sarah Elizabeth Miller was 26 years old, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and of medium height. She always kept her hands clean. Her nails were short and well-maintained. Her voice carried both compassion and professionalism when she spoke. When I entrusted Rex to her, she looked at me with a reassuring expression. "Don't worry, Captain," she said in a soft voice. "Rex is a strong dog. We'll heal him. But the operation process might be lengthy. We'll probably need to take him to the main base in Manila. Manila, the capital, hundreds of kilometers away. Rex would be taken there, and I would stay here." I placed my hand on his head, stroked his ear. He tried to wag his tail as always, but gave up wagging from the pain. "Wait for me, Rex," I whispered. "I'll come find you when the war ends, I promise." For the next 3 months, I felt his absence every day. In the final days of the war, when news came that the Japanese had surrendered, I had only one thing on my mind: finding Rex. In early September, I set out from Manila, bouncing in the back of a truck with other soldiers. My mind was constantly on Rex. Had he recovered? Did he still remember me? Was he still alive? When I arrived in Manila, the city was in ruins. The traces of war were everywhere. Destroyed buildings, bombed streets, people weakened by hunger. But I was only looking for the veterinary hospital. When I found the hospital, the guard sergeant at the door asked me about Manuel Santos. He was a 30-year-old, dark-skinned, black-haired Filipino man. He had a slight accent when speaking English. His eyes were tired but sincere. "Veterinary hospital?" He said. "Ah, that place closed 2 months ago. All the dogs were sent to different places." My heart started pounding frantically. "Which places?" "I don't know, sir. But the records might be at the office in the city center." I ran from office to office all day. I searched through records. Finally, in the evening hours, I found Rex's name in an old folder. Rex, German Shepherd mix, injury, left hind leg, status, recovered, transfer, Cabanatuan camp, date, July 15th, 1945. Cabanatuan. That was about 100 kilometers north of Manila. It was a former prisoner camp. I didn't know what it was being used for now. I set out early the next morning. I had found a jeep and was heading to Cabanatuan alone. Along the way, I passed rice fields, bamboo forests, and small villages. Filipino farmers waved their hands. Children ran along the roadside. When I arrived at Cabanatuan camp, it had become a temporary shelter center. People left homeless after the war were living there, but I didn't see any dogs. The person in charge of the camp, Major Robert Charles Davidson, was a 40-year-old, fat, short man. His small eyes behind his glasses always looked suspicious. His hair was sparse, and he always appeared sweaty. "Dogs?" he said. "Oh yes, they came here. But they were all given to different families. Filipino families adopted them." "Which families?" "Our records aren't complete, but they were distributed to villages. Maybe you can ask in the surrounding villages." Thus began my real search. I started going village to village, house to house. Everywhere I went, I showed Rex's photograph. Filipino families were very hospitable. They offered me food, listened to my story. But nobody had seen Rex. Days passed. Weeks passed. I was still searching. Sometimes at night, sleeping in the guest houses of small villages, I thought I heard Rex's voice. Sometimes I mistook barking sounds from afar for his voice. In mid-October, in a small village in Tarlac province, an old man told me a different story. Gonzalo Ruiz was 75 years old, with graying hair, walking hunched over, but with intelligent eyes. His hands were very wrinkled. He spoke very slowly when talking. "American dog?" he said in English. "Yes, I saw a dog, but he's not with a family. That dog always wanders alone. Always seems to be looking for something." My heart started pounding. Where? In the north, near the town of Bamban. Always seen around there, but nobody can approach him. Very skittish. Bamban. That was about 30 kilometers from here. I immediately jumped in my jeep and headed there. When I arrived in Bamban, the sun was beginning to set. The town looked small and quiet. When I asked the locals, they said yes, they had seen a dog. But that dog always wandered outside the town, among the rice fields. In the darkness of night, I started searching the rice fields with my flashlight. I was walking on muddy roads. My shoes were sinking into the mud. Mosquitoes were buzzing around me. But I couldn't be stopped. Just after midnight, I heard a sound from afar. A familiar sound. Barking. But not just barking. Sounds like something searching for something. My heart started beating wildly. "Rex!" I shouted. "Rex!" The sound stopped. Then, running sounds came from afar. Someone was running towards me. I turned my flashlight in that direction, and there he was, my Rex, but he wasn't the same as before. He had lost weight. His fur was dirty and matted. He was limping slightly on his left leg. But most importantly, I saw in his eyes that he recognized me. "Rex!" I shouted again. He also started running towards me, limping, but with all his strength. I also ran towards him. In the muddy field, at midnight, in the light of flashlights, we reunited. Rex jumped on me. He licked my face. He wagged his tail like crazy. I also hugged him. I cried. Yes, there, in the middle of the muddy rice field, as a soldier returning from war, I cried. "Rex," I whispered in his ear, "you found me, or I found you. Doesn't matter. Now we're together." I took him in my arms. I took him to my Jeep. That night we stayed in a small hotel in the town. Rex slept on my bed, next to me. Occasionally he would open his eyes and look at me, as if asking, "Is it really you?" I later learned that after Rex left the hospital, he was given to a family to take care of him, but he kept escaping. He was always searching for me. One of the places he searched for me was Bamban, because that was close to a camp where we had been together before. He was also looking for me. The Filipino family, the Reyes family, had tried very hard to take good care of Rex. The father, Carlos Reyes, was 45 years old, a farmer, dark-skinned, short, but strongly built. His wife Maria was 38, black-haired, brown-eyed, a compassionate woman. They had 2 children, 10-year-old Pedro and 8-year-old Ana. I later learned from Maria Reyes that Rex seemed happy while living with their family. He played with the children, but every night he would look into the distance and howl softly, as if he was calling someone, as if he hoped someone would hear him. At the end of October, Rex and I returned to the United States of America. We crossed the Pacific by ship. Rex was a bit anxious on the ship, but he calmed down because I was with him. We would go out on deck together and watch the ocean. When we arrived in America, we had both become different people. I was a man bearing the traces of war. He was a dog who had spent part of his life searching for me. But together, we returned to our home in Columbus, Ohio. During the ship journey, I had observed Rex's behavior. The other soldiers had welcomed him very lovingly. They knew he was a hero, too. The ship's captain, Captain Edward James Morrison, was a 60-year-old man with white hair, blue eyes, and nautical wrinkles. He always walked straight, his authority felt in every step. "Your dog is special," he had said to me. "I've seen many soldiers, but such a loyal war companion is rarely seen." Captain Morrison's words had touched my heart. Rex was truly special, not just for me, but for everyone who met him. My family had never seen Rex. My mother, Dorothy Mae Thompson, was a sweet woman in her 50s with gray hair, hazel eyes, always wearing a kitchen apron. She was always kneading dough with her hands. The house always smelled of cookies. When she saw Rex, her eyes filled with tears. "So this is your war companion," she said. "Welcome, Rex. This is your home, too." Rex also felt my mother's warmth. He approached her, licked her hand. My mother smiled. Rex and I began our new life together. I bore the traces of war on me. I had nightmares at night. But when Rex was next to me, I felt more comfortable. He was protecting me, and I was protecting him. In the first days, I noticed that Rex also bore the traces of war. He was afraid of sudden sounds, stayed awake at night. We were both wounded souls, but we were both healing. Together. My father, Charles William Thompson, was a 60-year-old tall man with a gray beard, a retired railroad worker. His hands were full of calluses. His voice was both harsh and compassionate. When he first saw Rex, he looked at him with suspicion. But over time, a special bond formed between them. "This dog is also returned from war," my father said one evening. "Just like you. You both speak the same language." My father was right. Rex and I spoke the silent language of war. We understood each other with our eyes. Without saying anything, we knew what each other was feeling. On weekends, Rex and I would go for walks along the banks of the Scioto River. Autumn leaves danced in golden yellow and red tones. Rex couldn't run as fast as he used to. The scar on his leg always made him limp. But he was happy, because he knew I was next to him. Sometimes in the evening hours, sitting in the backyard, I would stroke Rex's head. He would also look at me. We both knew that war had separated us. But love, loyalty, and hope had brought us back together.
This is the story of a friendship, a loyalty, and never giving up. Rex and I found each other despite the cruelty of war. Because true friendship is greater than time and space. Perhaps you to have something in your life that you never gave up on, searched for, and finally found. Because sometimes what we're looking for is also looking for us.